Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another session of Live at the Waterhole on this peaceful Sunday. I'm Kenneth Gamble. I'll be your guide for the afternoon. Please remember to send in your questions. It's a live and interactive show, so hopefully we can find out a few things. And we're starting off here at Rosie's Pan in the Greater Kruger. Got quite a few nice buffaloes dotted around the pan. Hippos sleeping in the middle there. And I see the impala also just mingling around in the background there. It's quite hot at the moment in the Lowveld. Even though tomorrow is the first day of spring, it certainly feels like summer's in full tilt here in the Lowveld. Certainly looks it as well. These buffalo look quite exhausted from the heat. They're just taking it easy and not doing too much. Garth mentioning that he's quite excited for today. Yeah, hopefully we have some cool things in store for us. You never know what the bush is holding, or what gifts it's holding for you. On Monday we actually saw a hyena, so that was a first for me and quite a cool one. I'd consider that my first predator during the day shift anyway. This is quite a nice large herd of buffalo dotted all over. You can see they're hugging carefully to all the shade that's available. A lot of the trees have unfortunately lost their leaves at this time of year, so there's not too many options to pick from. Looks like the tree that they're using for shade there, that's a puzzle bush. Afrikaans I call it a witgat. I must double check myself. I always get a bit confused, but I do believe it is a puzzle bush. Interesting also, the elephants don't seem to browse on them too heavily, and they are evergreen throughout the year. They do quite well in dry conditions. Stacy, you'd like to know if different buffalo herds compete against each other. Not necessarily to the point they would fight one another. They are definitely competing with one another over food resources, such as all grazing resources. Obviously large herds will come together. There's generally a dominant cow, kind of known as the pathfinder, that's one way of calling it, but she will generally lead the herd and see which way they go, etc. But yeah, there's not necessarily a territorial dispute amongst different herds, but there is certainly a competition for resources. It's for that reason why younger bachelor or younger buffalo bulls will actually leave herds and form their own smaller herds in search of better grazing, because you can imagine a huge buffalo herd moving through the bush tends to trample a lot of the grazing, and they can't stay in an area too long. That's why buffaloes are always on the move and they don't stay in one area for too long. Obviously it's different in the dry season. They return to certain water sources more continuously, but they graze in different spots. And the younger bulls, when they leave the herds, they're obviously able to stay in areas much longer where the grazing is better, but obviously at the same time there's strength in numbers, so they do tend to be predated on quite a bit more. And then of course you also have your dugger boys that they just kind of are too old to keep up with the herd, and they just kind of pick a spot to spend the rest of their retirement essentially. But different bulls will definitely fight one another for rights to mating or dominance. So you will witness that sometimes in a breeding herd, with bulls fighting one another when it comes to breeding. Leo with mentioning maybe we'll see some lions. That would certainly be great. I'm sure there's probably a lion herd not too far off of this buffalo herd. It's almost a golden rule in the bush. If you've got a large buffalo herd, there are generally lions in the vicinity. How close is the real question, but large lion prides will often trail buffalo herds and just kind of move with them through their territory. Well, we're going to leave our buffaloes to spend some more time relaxing. We're going to go see what's waiting for us at Tau Lodge. Okay, I came to my conclusion. It's not a puzzle tree. A puzzle tree is a different one. It's a shepherd's tree. That was the tree that the buffalo were laying underneath. They do look a little bit similar. I always get them crossed myself. We have quite a few nice ones growing around my house. Very, very interesting trees. They grow very slowly and live quite a long time. I see we've got some nice wildebeest that are down this afternoon, sprinkled with some zebra. I wonder if we're going to see any action from the amorous crocodiles again. I've noticed they've been quite busy at it during most of the time. Over the last couple of weeks it's almost consistent. Yaku, you're asking if a buffalo is aggressive. Yeah, they definitely can be aggressive. Generally, Duggar boys are very well known to have bad tempers, etc. And also, just due to the way they live on their own, they often are on the back foot, so they tend to react, or they get a fright in deeper bush where you stumble upon them. And obviously, fight or flight is a momentary decision, and due to them being a bit older, they tend to fight before they can afford to flight. And obviously, once again, also female buffaloes will protect their young quite viciously or defensively. But yeah, if you come across a breeding herd, they tend to choose flight 90% or most of the time. But if you pester them for too long or bump into them at a bad time, they may present a front. I see we've got one of our crocodiles having a nice lazy Sunday today. Quite camouflaged, a bit like a log there, not moving too much.
Oh, wow. And that's it for this morning's drive.
She's just got her impala, everybody.
And we're going to be heading out and seeing what animals we can find.
Scott, you'd like to know if I've been to Tau. No, unfortunately I haven't. I've been very close by. I've been to Pilanesberg a few times, and Tau and Pilanesberg and Madikwe are not too far apart from each other. So relatively, I say relatively in inverted commas, similar habitats and biomes. Pilanesberg is a bit more unique because it is the majority of the reserve is in a extinct volcanic crater, but yeah, I've been nearby. I have driven past the area before, but I've never had the opportunity to go to Madikwe itself. Maybe one day if I play my cards right. Tubbs, you'd like to know if zebra can swim. They most certainly can. I don't think we'll see them jumping into this water. They are well aware there are crocodiles present, but as we often see in the migration that takes place in Kenya across the Mara River, etc., the zebras often take to the water, and obviously they prefer to wade if they can, but if they need to they will swim, and they can swim quite strongly. If you've seen some of the footage, the river can flow quite strongly, so they are able to hold their own. They don't always come out on the other side where they want to, but zebra can swim. Most of your antelope can swim. It's not their first preference, but if it's a dire situation or an emergency, they will take to the water under certain circumstances. Well, I think now that our wildebeest and zebra are heading out, we're gonna go see what's waiting for us at Aldonio. Well, we can always count on the Ellies on a Sunday at Aldonio. I think most hours of the day at Aldonio the elephants tend to be in the middle of the day, especially when it's dry like this. I see we've got the lone oryx in the background there, but once again some truly majestic and large elephant bulls just having a drink of water. Still waiting for the day where we get to see a bit of a breeding herd here at Aldonio. I've not that I can remember, I haven't really seen any breeding herds come down to the waterhole. It seems like the area is quite dominated by elephant bulls, and there doesn't appear to be too many breeding herds, or maybe very small breeding herds in the area. Certainly, Jake, yeah, big guys are having a drink. All the all the old chaps are at the local pub, maybe Tuscan Tides or something like that. But having a grand old time, cooling down a bit, and catching up on the latest news. It's always quite peaceful watching a couple elephant bulls just whittle away the hot hours of the day. It's been a while since we've seen one ton, but I'm sure he's somewhere out on the Great Plains. That large bull, third from left, you can see he's got some serious tusks on him. Actually appears like the right one has been broken a bit, or it's a bit jagged. And his left one is quite long, so to be safe to assume he's probably right-handed, or he prefers to use his right tusk. And sometimes they refer to it as kind of their slave tusk, the one that does all the hard work. Lydia, I do agree with you, it does look quite a bit like an album cover. The bright blue contrasting sky with these large giants. I don't know what the title of the album would be, but maybe leave that up to some of you to decide. But certainly a picturesque moment. I always love seeing these elephants under acacia trees in the background, although they are no longer technically called acacias. It's quite hard for me getting used to that one after all these years, having grown up knowing they are acacia trees. I also struggle to pronounce the new name for the family. I think it's Vichalia. Doesn't roll off as nice as acacia, but such is the way of the scientific world. I must say this oryx appears to be a bit skinny. We can see its hip bones protruding a fair bit there. Maybe a bit of an older animal. At the same time, it's also quite late into the dry season, so vegetation is sparse and not as most nutritious. And this is always a bit of a tough time of year for the animals to kind of withstand the last few months of the dry season before the start. But you can see the hips and the ribs are ever so slightly showing, quite indicative of the harsh conditions at the moment. Vicky's got a good suggestion there. Tusks of Thunder. I think that's quite a fitting one. Got an excited zebra there, throwing a kick or two. Seeing some waterhole aggression in between the zebras. No, that might be just over water resources and competition. It might be two males, but yeah, zebra fights can get quite rough. I was about to mention how I hope I'm never kicked by a zebra, but there we also saw them biting and kicking a bit as well. Yeah, zebra can be quite harsh or aggressive towards one another. Yeah, their bites are nothing to be taken lightly, as much as their kicks. If I was a lion, I would certainly think twice. That elephant bull has decided he's tired of the clowning around that's taking place at the waterhole. He needs a bit of space.
Even a hyena coming into the action as well now. Oh my word! She's stalking the hyena now. Leopard, hyena, lion, all together in one shot. Oh. Whoa. This is action-packed.
My full name is Mpho Tikani. I grew up in Soweto. My first animal that I filmed said to dog. Okay, no, it's my first animal that I filmed, I think it was an impala. Best sighting ever, I would say it was actually this year, 2024. But it was at this Cedric when we had Mulwati and TP on a warthog kill. I think we have to cut it.
Join us on the greatest and largest game drive in the world.
Are you ready for the adventure of a lifetime? Wild Earth Travel's newsletter is your passport to a magical journey. Explore exclusive travel options featuring special offers at stunning Wild Earth locations and all hosted by your favorite presenters. Don't miss out. Head over to our website and subscribe to the Wild Earth Travel newsletter today and stay in the know on all our unforgettable adventures. Wild Earth Travel, where Africa comes alive.
I see we've got a few starlings zipping in and around the elephant's feet. It looks like superb starlings, but it's always a bit challenging when the camera's zoomed out. I was brushing up a bit on my birds of East Africa, obviously a lot sharper on my Southern African birds, also having never been to East Africa. I'm not too familiar with them, but I was truly blown away with the diversity of starling species they have in Kenya or East Africa. We also have quite a few in Southern Africa, but I personally don't think to the same level of diversity as what's in Kenya. And just for starters, the superb starling is probably one of the most striking ones. I will certainly look pretty, but I don't think they compete with the likes of the superb starling for starters. There we go, getting a bit of a close-up now on them. Oh, that's quite cool. We've got a lizard just basking away. I'm sure he's waiting to pounce on some insects. It looks quite a bit like an agama. Very different to the one we get down here in southern Africa. It always has a blue head and a bit more of a browner body, almost the inverse colors of this one. I'll do some reading to find out what species it is, but quite striking with that yellow head. So we are looking at the Kenyan rock agama, from what I'm aware of. So it isn't a agama lizard, just quite different to the one we're used to here in southern Africa, which is a tree agama. But quite beautiful coloration. Between him and the starling, there's certainly a bit of competition for best dressed on this Sunday. Corinne, you'd like to know when the rains are due. So it will be, obviously it's a bit different in each part of Africa or at each waterhole due to the latitude and longitude of the location. But for Old Donyo, it's generally about late October, December. And obviously that's never set in stone, but yeah, still a bit of time before that takes place. But I must say, if I compare just Old Donyo in general compared to Rosie's Pan and that part of the Greater Kruger, the vegetation still appears to be, I wouldn't call it lush, but there is some grazing around, there is leaves on the trees, etc. But yeah, it could be quite an arid region, and there might be quite a lower animal population, hence why we're seeing more vegetation compared to the Kruger with its vast animal population, or its huge animal populations. Well, we're going to leave our elephant bulls to carry on their peaceful drink and go see what's going on at Camelthorn. Well, there's quite a huge zebra party going on. My goodness, I actually only saw the main herd at the waterhole. I didn't see all of the rest of them on top of the ridge. This is a large zebra gathering once again. It's always stunning at these locations across the Bateti. It looks like we've got a monitor lizard walking in between some of the elephants and the zebras there. He's picked his tail up, so he's trying to make himself look big, or maybe stop himself from getting stepped on. Benji, you'd like to know if those are bumps, or those bumps, cysts or tumours on the elephants. Obviously it's quite hard to tell from afar, etc., and also generally with those type of things you need to do a biopsy, but it can be things like abscesses or cyst-like swellings. Maybe a branch stabbed them and caused a bit of an injury, it got infected. It can be scar tissue. Obviously elephants also fight a bit rough and poke each other with their tusks. There can be parasites that cause it. Certain parasitic worms can result in those bumps. And sometimes true tumours are also an option, or a possibility. But malignant cancers aren't very well known in elephants. But yeah, there's a number of possibilities. I'd say most of the time it's cyst-like swellings more than actual tumours. Hannah, you'd like to know if a zebra herd can be big enough to scare elephants off? No, I don't think so. I think they might. I don't want to say the word intimidated. I think they might be a bit annoyed or decide they are just going to move on with their day. But I mean, we'll often see youngsters charging into a big herd of zebra or other antelope just to scare them off. It also depends on the mood. If a bull elephant is in must, he might really go out of his way to traumatize or terrorize the other animals around the watering hole, just due to all the testosterone present in his body and wanting to show off the dominance and get some of that aggression out. But I think elephants are well aware they are the true kings of the savannah due to their size, and they're not too bothered. But I think we may see them leave a watering hole. If a large herd of zebras pops up and really stirs and disturbs the water, then you'll probably see them maybe pick up their things and go look for a quieter spot to drink, etc. But I wouldn't say they'd ever be scared of a large herd. Kyle, you'd like to know where do you find the biggest elephants? Well, the sad truth is, once upon a time, all over Africa. Unfortunately, due to the ivory trade about a century ago, a lot of those genetics were lost, or elephants were pushed to the brink brink of local extinction in certain areas. And there's not only really a handful of spots that are known for elephants with big tusks. Kenya being one of them. There's a lot of big tuskers over the years that have come from Kenya. I'm not specifically sure which reserves, but there's a number of reserves with large tuskers. Tembe Elephant Park is very well known for its large tuskers and the large tusker gene that appears to be in the Tembe population. Kruger also has a few tuskers. There's been many over the years. It's always a treat seeing them. In the 90s, the Kruger started a program where they referred to 7 elephants as the Magnificent Seven, and there was paintings done and books, etc., to kind of bring attention to these giants. So if you ever go to the Letaba Elephant Hall in Letaba in the Kruger National Park, you can see some of these massive tuskers. But that was quite a few years ago, so all those tuskers have passed away since. But there is a lot of up-and-coming tuskers. It's always quite fun when you actually find one in the Kruger. There's quite a few possibilities depending on where you are in the park, and you have to try and get good pictures of the ears and the markings to try identify it. But yeah, to my knowledge, that's some of them. I think also Tanzania has a few large tuskers also. But yeah, not very many left in certain populations that were quite heavily pressured by humans during the ivory trade. Okay, well, elephants have left us and the zebras are just doing their thing. We're going to see what's going on with the vultures at Victoria Falls. just in time for Sunday lunch, my favorite. It's always a highlight to see all the vultures getting ready for their feeding. I must say they're always quite well behaved. They never swarm the feeder. They do get quite close, but they do wait until it is their official turn. But I would certainly like to see one day, maybe watch for a bit, is if they ever put a bit of a larger carcass at the feeding, you could call this vulture restaurant or feeding station, but I think that would be quite interesting to watch, how long it takes them to kind of finish off a more complete carcass. Obviously it depends on the size of whether it's a zebra or an impala, but I think that would be quite fascinating to see, especially because you'd have all the vultures in one specific point, so you'd probably see a bit more squabbling. They wouldn't be as dispersed as we see them in these separate little feeding balls that tend to hop around the place. But yeah, obviously it also is not too easy to bring in a whole carcass. You probably need a vehicle, and it also depends what is donated to the vulture restaurant. Just going back to a bit of an older comment I missed at first. Lenny was mentioning the yellow head of the agama is probably quite a disadvantage with regards to predators. Definitely so, and I mean it's the same with the tree agama in southern Africa with its blue head, but that's where the whole argument of survival of the fittest comes into play. The male will obviously attract females with his brightly coloured head, and then that way it's also a show of his fitness as a good mating partner, etc., that he's able to survive, and how impressive he looks. And even with this glaring disadvantage, he's still able to protect himself, or survive. I think it's not so much protect, but just an example like that. Pauline, you'd like to know, why don't the vultures turn on each other? I think from up here with our vantage point it maybe looks a bit calm, etc. Sometimes you will see squabbles break out. It depends how serious they get. Sometimes but generally it's two birds that will break off and really fight with each other and pin each other down. I've never seen it get too bad that a vulture's seriously injured or damaged. I think it's a bit more of a dominance thing, but yeah, it's quite a cacophony of sound, of hissing and screeching that takes place. It's interesting how they strike a balance between exerting a lot of aggression and dominance while feeding, but also not hurting one another badly. I'm sure there is a bit of a nipping that takes place now and then. But yeah, and we've seen it in the at other waterholes also. It's interesting, they'll fight and be quite territorial towards each other at a feeding site, but they'll happily associate at bathing spots, at rivers or pans, and all seems quite peaceful and calm.
Let's go and take a look. See you out there.
At Wild Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
Greatest wildlife spectacle on planet Earth. We'll see you there.
Seems like our eagles are also having a fantastic feast today. It appears like a poor hapless animal has fallen prey. It's a bit tough to see, but if I had to put my my money on it, I think that looks a bit like a rock hyrax that they've caught. You can see the one parent tearing chunks away. They can't see properly whether it's passing it onto the chick. Appears to be grabbing a few morsels for itself. That being said, the chick is also quite large. I would wager it's gonna fledge one of these days, maybe in a couple of weeks, but certainly able to feed itself and break off its own pieces of meat. But it does seem to be relying on its parent to do the majority of the work. But that's the way of nature, sink or swim. If you don't help yourself, then you will go hungry. But it does appear like the parent is still feeding the fledgling ever so slightly. It's amazing on this camera, these eagles look large, but they don't look that large. But if you ever see a black eagle in person, it's truly awe-inspiring how large they are. They are capable of catching quite large prey for their size. They'll catch small antelope, baby impala, baby inyala, steenbok, duikers. I would like to double check that, but I'm pretty sure they could take a duiker if they want to. Monkeys, etc. Almost everything's on the menu up to that size. Well, we're going to leave our eagles to enjoy the rest of their Sunday rock hyrax and see what's waiting for us at Serondela. Ah, fantastic. A few Ellies visiting Serondela. It's always a nice staple. I see the hippos taken up a bit of a different location to get away from the hippos. We've also got a few cautious impala in the background. Caden, you'd like to know if the lighter bird that we saw by the black eagles is the female. No, that's the juvenile. The male and females are both black. That lighter colours is due to its age. It will obviously start to develop its black feathers as it matures, but yeah, that's the juvenile. I agree, Ian. Elephants are very capable waterhole invaders. This is still quite a light or a small invasion force. Sometimes there's massive herds that come here to Serondela. It's great fun watching them cavort and play around. We can see these guys are still quite focused on drinking for the moment being, stretching their trunks out and sipping at the undisturbed water. But I'm sure the splashing is about to ensue. Recycled Teenager UK asking if I know if tigers would ever be released into South African reserves. They appear to be held in captivity. Yeah, that's correct. So there is one or two private reserves that you could call it to an extent free roaming tigers, but they are just actually on very large expanses of land, and there is still fences, etc. But as far as national parks or game reserves involved, there are no tigers released into reserves, just due to the fact that tigers are not indigenous, or they're not indigenous to South Africa or the African continent. Whereas lions historically were found in the Middle East and even into India, but tigers are not an animal that's part of the ecosystem in Africa, so it would go against any conservation principles or mandate of national parks and game reserves to do that. It's just not the natural way of things. That's, at the end of the day, the main focus of national parks and game reserves, to protect diversity and ecosystems.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
My full name is Emojis. Best part of my job is coming to see nature. Worst part of my job is logging. That's the worst thing ever, because you have to log amount of footage. You sit in front of that computer and yeah, you think of deleting the footage, but no, they need the footage. If I went to camel, probably a soccer player. I know some people don't believe me, but I'm very good, and I'm very fast.
This is brilliant.
Ria, you say the best kind of roadblock? Absolutely. Look at this.
Hello, girls. Out here, every wild moment counts, and as a Wild Earth explorer, you won't miss a thing.
Incredible.
Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7 and rewind if you want to catch something again. Enjoy behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and early access to travel offers. The best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
And definitely so. I think the animals that are patient tend to always survive the longest, or their gambits pay off. It's certainly interesting to see when animals are desperate, for example, when it's very dry, or when it's dry with regards to water or food resources, to see the risks they will then take and the bold actions that they would normally never do. They come into play, and yeah, it's just interesting to see when those barriers are broken out of desperation. Obviously it's quite sad to see, but animals are survivors, and they know life is a long game. Well, as the elephants mosey on out of here, we're going to go see what's waiting for September. Quite a proper swim taking place here today at Tembe. Another one of the collared elephants. Looks like he's sitting on his bum in the water. That seems rather fantastic. France, you'd like to know how the whole show works with Live at the Waterhole. So yeah, I'm in front of my PC. I don't choose the cameras. It's the zoomies at Africam that are in control of them, and we switch around based on the action that's taking place. So if there's something good, then we'll move to a different waterhole and see what's going on. And then I'm also in direct comms with the director at Wild Earth, and that's how they communicate to me. I hope that answers your question. Cole, you'd like to know why we hardly ever see cows swimming in the waterholes. It might be a bit of bias or just something we haven't seen too often. I've witnessed it myself a few times in some of the larger dams in the Kruger. You'll see larger herds get in. I think maybe the younger bull elephants tend to be a bit more boisterous, and they want to go splash and get deeper into the water, etc. But if anything, I must say, I think generally the older bulls seem to be the ones who don't really get deep into the water. Don't know if it's just an old man thing and it's not as fun. But I've seen in Botswana on the Chobe River an entire breeding herd crossing the channel or the river, and I mean that's incredibly deep at some points, to the point the elephants are completely swimming, and the little calves have just got their, or they kind of go into snorkel submarine mode with their snorkel sticking out, and they stay very close to their mothers as they cross from the channel to the channel. So I don't think it's an aversion towards swimming or water. I think it just depends on the moment, but it does certainly, in my opinion, appear that the older, bigger elephants aren't always so keen to get all the way into the water. I don't know if it's the old squeaky joints don't work as well as they used to, but the younger elephants seem to truly enjoy a good swim. I see this bull is dropping a few presents in the waterhole for the other animals, and stirring it up a bit. Luckily at the end of the day it's only plant matter. It's not going to be harmful to any of the other animals. Jackie mentioning that elephant has a collar on, and if there's any specific reason for that. So obviously on large tuskers they tend to be collared because it's imperative for rangers to protect them. Obviously a large elephant bull with such large ivory is a prime target for poachers, so they'll monitor a large bull like that to check his whereabouts, see if he's become stationary, which could maybe indicate poaching. If they see he's hanging in a high risk area of a reserve that maybe borders on a settlement, etc., or he's maybe broken out of the reserve, they can track him down. But in this situation, this would definitely be research based. There's obviously quite a few organizations out there doing research on elephants for their well-being and further management principles, and trying to build up more understanding. So with regards to this younger bull being collared, you'd probably find they've collared a number of animals across, or a number of elephants across different ages and sexes, just maybe to get an idea where they spend a bit of their time, where do they drink quite a bit, what areas of the reserve are more utilized, etc. Even to the extent you could draw conclusions or data that would show maybe cows prefer different areas of the park compared to bulls. So I think it in a way, I mean, the data can be used across so many different research ways or projects. But yeah, I think it goes a long way in developing understanding and how reserves can continue to protect and look after elephants with their best interests at heart. Corinne, you'd like to know if hippos and crocodiles ever share the same waterholes if they're big enough. Certainly so, yeah. So crocodiles, when they're quite small, they'll stay out of the way of the hippos. I don't think the hippos notice them too much. Generally the crocodiles are quite adept at avoiding or sneaking past the crocodile, sneaking around the hippos underwater. There's been a couple videos like that on or wild earth footage where antelope have jumped into the water, and the hippos have also chased towards the swimming antelope, and can be probably more an aggressive response. But yeah, as soon as the crocodile goes underwater with its prey or underwater, I think the hippos have a tough time of keeping up with them. But I'd say they tolerate each other's presence. Like you said, it is about space. I don't think the crocodiles or the hippos would really tolerate the crocodiles being on top of them, or in any way like that. That would probably get a bit ugly. And there is a couple instances where sometimes crocodiles have gotten in the middle of a hippo pod and have been promptly bitten and attacked. So they will generally stay out of each other's space. Obviously also that's an example of deep into the dry season, those tolerances may be stretched a bit thinner as the hippos try to make the most of the small water resources available as it gets muddier and the waterhole dries out. And the same with the crocodiles, they'll also stick it out. Obviously it's a last resort before they leave, so they will encroach a bit on each other's personal space until the rains fill up the waterhole again. Bit of a drinking parade here with all the nyalas, all in a neat little line, with their heads down getting a sip. In this situation they'd be a bit vulnerable if a cat was busy stalking them, because no one's really got eyes or alertness of what's going on. Of course the nyalas have got very good hearing, but this is certainly a bit of a risky situation for them if the lions are feeling like a Sunday roast. Well, we're gonna leave our nyalas to finish off their drink. It doesn't seem like much is about to take place, and we're gonna head over to El Doño. There we go, a bit of a scene change, a few less elephants, and we've been graced by some giraffes having a sip on this lazy Sunday. Toby, you'd like to know what's the difference between ewes, cows, rams and bulls. So I'm not entirely sure where it stems from technically, or who decided on the naming convention for certain sizes of animals or antelopes where it is in play, but your split actually starts or happens by the nyala. So nyala are the only ones that have a ewe and a bull. Normally it's a ewe and a ram, or a cow and a bull. And from what I've been told and what I know, it's mainly to do with the size, but anything, so, and from there you could kind of deduce how it would work further, but anything smaller than a nyala will always fall under the rules of a ram and a ewe. So impalas have rams and they've got ewes, duikers, ewes and rams, steenbok, smaller animals like that. And then, like with the nyala being a bull, anything kind of bigger than that falls into the category of cows and bulls. So in oryx, for example, you get cows and bulls. Elephants are cows and bulls. Giraffes are cows and bulls. Zebra obviously not, because they're horses, so you get stallions and mares. Ironically Now, as far as I know, male crocodiles are referred to as bulls. I'll double check myself on that, but I do remember that one. It's always also kind of stuck with me. Can't really imagine a bull crocodile. And bushbuck, another example of ewes and rams. And I guess it also stems from an extent, in a way, if you also look at livestock production. Your sheep are ewes and rams. Goats, obviously, they've got their own rules. But you got billy goats and nannies. But for cattle, for example, yeah, that's where your bulls and cows start. So I think it probably also stems a bit from that. But once again, a name is just a name, and that's just how we make sense of the system. Don't think there's necessarily any reason for Inyalas to be different, but that's the way of things. Ace, you'd like to know what the lifespan of an elephant is? It's roughly about 60 to 65 years. Obviously depends on a lot of factors in an elephant's life. The type of vegetation it's got access to, its health, what it's been through in its life. But what actually generally happens when an elephant passes away from old age, it's because its teeth run out. So it's got sets of molars that are replenished throughout its life, and generally by the time the last set of molars runs out or is worn out, that elephant's generally quite close to 60 or 65 years. And yeah, unfortunately and sadly they then starve to death, which is not a pleasant way to go. Or they become weaker and they are maybe killed by a more dominant bull in a bit of a fight. But that's generally also why when you see quite older elephants, they tend to stick to marshes where there's softer evergreen vegetation like reeds, grass, etc. And obviously with their limited teeth that they have left, that's how they can keep on surviving, and they don't need to travel too far, etc. But yeah, that is the way it goes. Well, elephants are also slowly moseying off. A lot of our animals seem to give us a bit of time before they leave, but we're going to go see what's going on at the Olifants River. Quite a beautiful scene on the banks of the Olifants River. A few elephants and impala. We've even got some vultures at the back there. Obviously the shallow water there is giving them a spot to safely bathe, far from the risk of attacking a crocodile. The Olifants is not a very deep river. It actually flows quite shallowly. But we've got a few elephants that have had their cool down and they're on their way back either for a midday siesta under a tree, or quite possibly maybe to continue feeding. But I'm pretty sure they are just having a lazy afternoon for the next hour or two while the temperatures continue to simmer. Charles, you'd like to know if the elephant is the animal that gets attacked the least. I would definitely say so. Elephants are only rarely at risk or susceptible to attack by lion when they're small calves, and even then generally they've got the protection of the breeding herd to look after them. It's only rarely if they get separated. But aside from that, an elephant doesn't have any other natural predators it needs to watch out for. It might get into a fight with a larger bull, and that could maybe end ugly. It doesn't often happen, but it happens. Funny enough though, every now and then it pops up on social media or on the internet, but there's elephants that get jumped by crocodiles, or crocodiles grab their trunks or tails sometimes when they're drinking. I'm not sure why crocodiles do that, because there's not really actually a hope that the crocodile will ever be able to drag the elephant into the water and overpower it, but that happens often. Obviously superficial damage. But we're going to head back over to Serendela. Sounds like there's more elephant waiting there for us. The elephants are here in great numbers this afternoon. It actually looks like a piece of mud has been flicked at the camera. A bit of a smudge there. So I'm sure there was maybe a elephant that walked or drank underneath the camera maybe and splashed it a bit while spraying some mud. I'm sure this camera gets cleaned quite regularly after the elephants are done with their bathing sessions. And this is quite a nice large, or quite a decent sized breeding herd anyway. Quite a spread of different ages of young elephants here. Quite small ones and some very older females. Oh, there's a very tiny little baby. He appears tiny. He is able to use his trunk, so he's not too young. He's takes them quite a bit of time to master the arts of controlling all the muscles in their trunk.
For years we've shared virtual wildlife. Now let's experience it for real. I'm Lauren Arthur and I'd love to show you my amazing home here in the Greater Kruger of South Africa. This 5-night journey is an exclusive connection to my piece of untamed Africa. I live here in these gorgeous landscapes surrounded by epic wildlife. The wild is calling, so come and join me.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
My name is Takudzwa Panda Msesani. My scariest moment is when it happened twice. The other time I was with Cedric and the other time I was with Steve. And all those times, it was a black mamba. My favorite meal in camp is gonna be burger and chips.
Some ellies that we're approaching now.
The light on her as well is absolutely gorgeous.
So we are going to enjoy the rest of this sunset.
Wow, this is absolutely crazy.
And thank you for joining us. For myself and Cam, we will see you next time.
Gabby, you'd like to know if elephants struggle in winter as they need so much food. Certainly, you do definitely notice a bit of a decrease in the condition of elephants later in the dry season, I wouldn't say early. I wouldn't say it's only restricted to elephants. I think you can see it in a lot of your animals. Buffalo tend to be very obvious as the grazing decreases and they haven't got another choice. They need to continue to search for more grass. elephants have at least got the ability to, well, they predominantly graze in the summer months or the wet season, but they've got the ability to switch over from grazing to more browsing. But even then it is quite tough, as a lot of the trees start to go dormant. They start to store their nutrients in there, so the tops of trees or branches or leaves don't actually contain as much. It is food for the elephants, but it's not very nutritious. However, elephants are very clever, and they will often push trees over, or smaller trees, and actually dig to get hold of the roots, and then they will start to eat the roots in the dry winter months. So it is certainly a strategy that they employ to keep themselves going, and yeah, they've at least got the ability to utilize many different food resources compared to a few other, which I think does give them an edge. But yeah, unfortunately it's not easy when you need to consume the vast quantities of food that they need to consume, especially with their digestive system. It's not great at extracting all the nutrients from its food. Often you see an elephant dung, only partially digested. It's not as well digested as you would see in buffalo or antelope, to the way stomachs food to extract maximum nutrition. There was actually a book I read, it's in that way in parts of the Kruger where there's mopani trees. Mopani trees lose their leaves in winter, but also it provides a food source for elephants. But there's a certain compound in mopani leaves. If elephants consume too much of it, it actually starts so only eat so much of it before it has a negative impact on dietary requirements. Oh, it's always fantastic seeing this many buffaloes, but they've still got a couple more hours that they're gonna whittle away. We're gonna see what action is waiting for us at Tau Lodge. Lodge is always certainly a firm favourite for me, with all the birds and the water birds that we get to see. And the spoonbill and the grey heron are always the stars of the show, and generally up to something. I often enjoy watching the heron catch his share of fish. So there's also the reflection of a water buck at the edge of the water there. We'll see if our heron is able to snatch anything from the reeds and vegetation.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed color.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure. Every month, something wild lands in your inbox. From rare sightings and behind-the-scenes secrets to expert stories, seasonal changes, and exclusive travel opportunities, the Wild Earth Journal is your free monthly mailer, packed with the magic of the wild straight from the field. It's fun, it's free, it's full of surprises. Sign up now on the Wild Earth website.
Will stalk scare any fishes out. There will be fish eagles waiting around. You also kind of see this, they call it the Afrikaans, or the South African slang word is the barbel run in the Okavango Delta, but essentially the catfish run, where as the water levels start to drop, the young smaller fish exit the papyrus and come into the main channels where catfish and tigerfish are waiting to feed on them. It's quite a feeding spectacle, but at the same time, in this way, the chaos that's caused with the catfish trying to eat the smaller baby fish, and the tigerfish, you've got herons and egrets, all manner of fish-eating birds making the most of that opportunity and chaos. So from below, the fish are being eaten. From above, the egrets and herons are grabbing any fish they can. Kingfishers will hang around on the periphery, waiting for any stragglers. So it is very interesting how they, in a way, they do cooperate, but it's not necessarily planned. It's just it complements one another. Very peaceful day at Madikwe again. I think I saw a crocodile tail peeking out from the water there. Well, really deep the water is here. Imagine most of this grass and vegetation is almost essentially a floating mat of vegetation. I don't think it's one solid mass. Obviously there is channels that have been carved by the movement of animals and elephants, and I think the animals make use of those, or the crocodiles etc. make use of that more, but I am sure there is water. Well, yeah, these are just floating masses. We've got some black craigs doing their business. They love to stroll around in the thick wetland vegetation. They've got quite a unique call. If you have the opportunity, definitely play it for yourself. It would, I think it will greatly shock or surprise you. It's quite scary that a small bird like that can make a sound like it does. The first time I heard it, I thought it was something roaring from the reeds. See, there's a small chick there that's following its parent there. To obviously follow along and grab any insects that are flushed or also be fed by its mother, but or whichever parent it is. One of my favourite crake sightings, or black crake sightings, them running across the head and back of a hippo in the Kruger National Park. I think he seemed to tolerate it, but you know, the question is it just a convenient island or somewhere to pick at parasites and biting insects on the hippo? But the hippo didn't seem too perturbed. Lone red-knobbed coot busy. Oh, that's not a coot, that is a moorhen. And it's busy grooming itself and preening and looking after its feathers. The birds always invest quite a bit of time into maintaining their feathers. Kelly mentioning how it looks like it's green all year round here. Certainly in the waterhole, this waterhole is artificial and pumped, so the vegetation on the fringes and the vegetation that's able to get its roots into the water zone or the wet soil will obviously stay green, but yeah, if you look in the distance, you can quite clearly see that it is quite dry at the moment. There's a red-knobbed coot. Also just foraging. But at the same time, there are some pans that are naturally found in nature that are capable of keeping the water throughout the season. Obviously, these are almost like oases to animals deep in the dry bush, deep in the dry season. Generally these waterhole or these pans are created by elephants wallowing in them, walking through them, compacting. A lot of the dung from elephants or buffaloes etc. is also packed and it almost kind of becomes an impermeable layer, especially with the fine silt, clay and mud, all that mixes together over time and eventually becomes a bit of a natural depression and a pan that's capable of holding water all year round. You can generally judge how bad a drought is or a dry season is compared to years where the water maybe lasts the whole season compared to other ones where it does actually end up drying up, and if that takes place then you know it is quite a bad drought. I'm going to say the spoonbill almost looked a bit younger compared to the other one, but I think it is maybe just the angle of the camera. You can see he's definitely trying to stir up some or maybe amphibians is the better word, and that mass of, almost looks a bit like water lilies. They are really such a cool looking bird. That unique spatula-like ball is just I don't know, almost something alien or sci-fi like, but it's amazing how these adaptations take place in nature to support animals making the most of certain ecological niches, etc. Well, it's been enjoyable watching all the birds. We're going to see what's going on at Tembe. Well, there's a bit of... You can definitely see some of those large Tembe tusked. Jason, on the topic, you're asking what other animals dust bathe. So elephants, obviously. Rhinos will sometimes roll around a bit in the dust. They can't. I think elephants are the able to disperse the dust as they see fit. But you will see us doing it a bit. Some dust patch. Buffaloes, I'd say they prefer to wallow in mud. A bit of a low-flying aircraft. Birds dust bathe quite a bit. It's one way that they maintain their feathers, etc. You'll often see a number of birds lying down in the dust, etc., and fluffing themselves up with the dust to deter parasites is one of the many reasons. Warthogs are also on the dust bathe. I'm just trying to think what else. Sometimes you also see wildebeest doing it a bit. I don't think there's really an exclusive rule for which animals choose necessarily to dust bathe. I think they'll all take a bit of dust and sand. I guess it helps keep the coats a bit parasite. And with cats, for example, it comes down to scent. They are trying to mask their scent from other predators, so that's a bit of a defense mechanism. But it's not so much dust necessarily that they're after. It's more dung, like where leopards will roll around in buffalo dung, and just to kind of mark their scent a bit. And it's a bit of a anti-climax. Eagle and pretty looking leopard, and around in some fresh buffalo. I don't think he would look as maybe. Oh, these elephants are looking quite peaceful. I'm just going to go over to Jackie's for a bit, see what's going on there. A bit quiet at the moment here. But I must say Jackies can also surprise you. Quite a few times elephants slink in from the back. Also had a few sneaky mongooses also come sneaking past. And of course there's also relatively prolific bird life hanging around the dam here at Jackie's.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
My name is Takudzwa Panda Msesani. I really want to film an artwork, and it has been my goal. I'll be just keeping my eyes open. The worst driver is James. He's driving, yeah. You gotta be holding on back in there, yeah? Like in bumps, and I mean, it happens when, these things happens when you're actually going for animals usually. But then, yeah, he's driving, yeah. You gotta put your seatbelt.
It's open so they can see, so it's quite beneficial, and that's in the case of those unyalas. They'll often hang around the fringes of the waterholes for safety and for food, and of course there's water on tap. This elephant bull is not too worried. He's very complacent. Body language is very relaxed. Head is dropped below the shoulders there, which indicates of contentment, or he's not on guard. You can see he's a very mature elephant. His temples are sunken in somewhat, so he's not of young years. He's probably just on the other side of the prime of his prime years. But I'm sure he's had many experiences throughout Tembe Elephant Park. Jess, you'd like to know if elephants ever groom each other? Not necessarily. I think more the touching and feeling that we see between each other is more in a way of greeting or communicating between one another. To pick up chemical signals or pheromones, etc., with their trunks by smelling another elephant's mouth, or remembering a certain elephant like that. I think that's more often what we see. You'll often see a cow elephant maybe wrap her trunk around her calf a bit. That's kind of maybe just to guide it a bit, or protect it or keep it safe, but I wouldn't necessarily say there's specific grooming that takes place. Also, you'll see when bull elephants get a bit boisterous or they're playing with each other, they'll also lay their trunks on top of one another, but that's almost a bit more of a dominance display that's taking place there. How did you like to know that this Ellie would ever be a tusker? I think he's got the potential to get there. I'm not exactly sure how old necessarily has over or left. You can see he has broken the tips of his tusks a bit or split them. So that's also the other question is if he had not have broken them or damaged them a bit, and that does happen as they're pushing trees or breaking pieces of bark off or branches. They do inadvertently break their tusks, just the massive amount of forces that are at play while they're doing this. So his tusks could have maybe been already bigger, but due to the requirements of his life in the bush, they maybe are a bit shorter. There's often also very big tuskers that have massive long tusks, and out of the blue sometimes they'll also break their tusks, and then they are no longer a tusker, so it can change very quickly. There also are plenty of stories of elephants with decent tusks that were considered up-and-coming tuskers. They broke their tusks off, and then over time they grew back, and they do eventually almost go into the ranks of being a tusker. But he's definitely a very mature, impressive bull. That's how I would rank him. While we leave this fellow to finish up his drink, we're going to go back to Tau Lodge. I assume our crocodiles are getting a bit busy again. You can see one of them with their back peeking out of the reeds there. I know earlier this week they were mating again. So quite a busy bunch of crocodiles. Seems to be a bit of movement taking place there. I think there's another croc to the right there. I can't see too clearly. But certainly a maze of waterways and all that tangled vegetation, and it's quick to lose a crocodile in it all. Especially if they pop up between all the vegetation. It's not too easy to follow. Well, our crocs have given us the slip. We're going to go up to the hide. At least we've got a comedian of the bush here for us and provide us a bit of entertainment on the last little bit of our show today. I'm not entirely sure what he's up to. He seems to be licking his arm. Might possibly be a wound from a fight he was in, or maybe a thorn or something. But he's looking rather relaxed near the water's edge there. Clearly quite confident that the crocodile can't grab him. The baboons are quite cautious when it comes to crocodiles. They are very, very careful. Astrid mentioning she imagines baboons would be decent swimmers. Yeah, they can swim quite well actually. Obviously I don't think in a situation like this you'd maybe see them swimming. Excuse me. They are aware that there's crocodiles, so I don't think they would get in the water. But in places where they know the water doesn't have any crocodiles or dangers for them, they will partake in a bit of a dip. You actually often see it quite a bit in Cape Town with baboons that live around Cape Town in the Western Cape. They in the summer months will actually jump into people's swimming pools. There's quite a few videos across the internet of baboons diving in, and I wouldn't call it synchronized swimming, but it's certainly very entertaining watching them jump in. It's mainly the younger baboons, but it's heartwarming and entertaining to watch nonetheless. I'm sure it's not fun cleaning the pool filter after the baboons have visited. But generally if you see them crossing water, they will, out of choice, try to stand on their back legs and cross on two legs before they necessarily resort to having to swim. I don't think that's really their first choice. I think they feel at a bit of a disadvantage. So they... it's actually quite comical also watching them cross across a water body with their two legs and their hands stretched up high. It seems like they're not too fond of it. Maybe the risk of crocodiles that's got them on edge. You actually see it quite a bit in the delta with the troops there that move from island to island, and obviously it's not necessarily deep channels, but deep enough that they need to be waded across. Gosh, for a second I thought that was a crocodile right in front of that baboon at the water's edge. I was a bit shocked. I couldn't believe the baboon was so calm, but it looks like a piece of wood to me.
Oh, wow.
Even a hyena coming into the action as well now. Oh my word! She's stalking the hyena now. Leopard, hyena, lion, all together in one shot. Oh. This is action-packed.
My full name is Maxine Gaines. Most people that know me really well call me Max. I'm a mum. I have two boys. One is 16 years old and one is 14 years old. I'm a very proud mama of my two boys. I've just always been passionate about leopards. I'm passionate about their conservation. I'm just passionate about everything to do with leopards. I love them.
Some of you out there are brilliant at identifying hyenas.
Now, why do you think people have got this huge misunderstanding about reptiles?
Right in front of me there was the face of an astounded buffalo bull.
This is live and interactive, so everybody, if you have any questions and comments, please do send them through and let us know what you'd like.
Spaz mentioning he's never ever seen a crocodile trying to capture a baboon. It would certainly be something very interesting to observe. Obviously quite somber, but the way nature works. I've never seen it myself. Over the years I've seen lots of footage from the Kruger National Park or other spots more like in Zambia, Luangwa, etc. Where sometimes the crocodiles grab the baboons, but I don't think they let it happen too easily. I think they scope out their drinking spots very carefully. I mean, if you watch them, they drink from incredibly shallow sections around the waterhole that they don't get too much of a risk. But yeah, everyone's got to drink eventually, so it's not ideal. Definitely a very large troop that's quite spread out here. Maybe that's also their secret to success. If everyone drinks from a different spot, the crocodile doesn't know where to wait for them. But this must be about 30 or so individuals. I must say it's always entertaining watching baboons from a distance. It's not very fun when they are near your place of accommodation. I would assume this is one of the more dominant males on the troop. He looks like he's on guard duty, just watching what's going on in his kingdom, keeping an eye out for any prowling lions or leopards, and ready to give the alarm call if he needs to. But yeah, he's quite a large, big specimen. I think at a distance you would maybe assume it's a human sitting on that termite mound. Will be quite strong, and I see he's acting up for the camera now, giving us a bit of a pose on this Sunday. Certainly looking very regal and proud of himself. He's on the move after a bit of a back scratch. He's got other matters to attend to. There's also quite a large male walking past. Always sometimes a bit difficult to precisely see who's the dominant male baboon. You can sometimes see it with the grooming, etc. The other baboons treat them, but he will tolerate a few other large males that will essentially support him, will be like he's the rest of his parliament. And yeah, it's very interesting. Baboon hierarchy is very entertaining and interesting. But yeah, I think that's an excellent way to end off our show today. A few baboons giving us a few things to look at. It's been a great show. Thanks again, everyone. Thanks for all the questions. It's really been fun and interactive, and I hope we all learned a few things. I'm looking forward to the next one. I hope everyone also has a peaceful Sunday further and enjoys this afternoon's drive.
Well, hello and good morning. Welcome to your Safari Live here with Wild Earth. We are out here at Sandringham, and we also have the Sabi Sand with Leon there. He is also out and about this morning.